What would you do if you were faced with an interview, an interviewer for a job which you very dearly wanted? How would you approach the interview, preparing for the interview, and actually how would you conduct yourself in an interview? Creativity is the answer to how you put your best foot forward. But before we go into an actual interview with a candidate here today, let me tell you a story about a young girl who was blind, sitting on the street, and she had a hat in front of her. And as people walked by, there was no money in the hat. Until one man walked up, saw the sign that she had written, and turned the sign around and wrote something else. From that point on, the money flowed into the hat. At the end of the day, the man returned to the blind girl, and the blind girl recognized his footsteps and asked, "What is it, sir, that you wrote on the sign that made all the difference today?" And he said to her, "It is a beautiful day outside, but I cannot see it." In his writing of that beautiful passage, he understood what it meant to communicate to people the situation of the young girl, why she was important, and why they would want to donate money. But he did this by reframing the message in terms of what people were thinking as they walked by. As they enjoyed the beautiful air and the sun, what would make them stop and look and give money? It was because he had thought of the message in terms of the people walking by that made all the difference. And so when you're thinking of how you approach an interview, think about it in terms of what the other person is experiencing from their point of view. What do they see in you? And how can you be creative in how you approach those interview situations? Today, we're going to interview Timothy Marshall for the very important job of cowboy at Central Virginia Community College. And he has agreed to help us out on this interview situation. Hello, Timothy. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, how about you?
Pretty good. Now, we heard that you were interested in this job of cowboy. Can you tell me about your qualifications for this very dangerous assignment?
I'm good on the range and I have plenty of experience with farm animals. Seen plenty of movies, I know how to do.
We got horses, we got cows. We even got some llamas on the property. Have you ever worked with llamas before?
No, but I think I could learn.
You will learn. That's what we need here at CVCC Ranch Hands. Well, tell me about what would be your greatest challenge working here at CVCC Ranch Hands?
Greatest challenge? That's a tough question.
But you'd be willing to pretty much put in extra hours and ride that horse in the middle of the wintertime, even though it was cold outside?
Yeah, I mean,
Cold as mud.
being a cowboy is actually a fun job. I always view that as a challenge.
Okay, and we do have all the hamburgers you can eat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's a lot of cows out there. And we give you stock options, but the stock is actually cows. Is that okay with you?
That works for me.
You willing to stay with us for a few years and watch our company grow?
Absolutely.
We're looking for exactly the kind of person the spirit that you represent, the spirit of America on which this company and this country was built. You're hired, Tim. When can you start?
Right now.
Yeehaw! Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can think about, in your own life, how many situations have you been in where if you just thought about it from the other person's point of view, what I was looking for was an eagerness on the part of Timothy, a desire to learn, a desire to put up with coldness and hardship and riding on the back of a horse and eating all the hamburgers you can eat. But more importantly, creativity, I think, has gotten the wrong idea. Creativity might be synonymous with grit. The things, the qualities that America is famous for, creativity, another word for that, grit. True grit. Are you willing to last long enough? Are you willing to wait until your dreams come true? Are you willing to make the hard decisions and do the hard work that will one day make you a successful cowboy at CVCC Ranch Hands? In conclusion, let me tell you one more story. And that was the story of a soldier who came home from the war and immediately went into the intensive care unit of a hospital. He was severely injured and he lay on his back for many months, without being able to see anything, touch anything. Finally, they put him into an intensive care unit to recover next to an older man who was by the window. After many months of this ongoing ordeal, the young man was ready to give up. The older man, sensing that a little bit of a push in the right direction might be all that he needed. And so the older man began to tell the younger man stories of what he had seen outside the window. Right outside that window was a beautiful lake. There were birds, there were trees, there were people holding hands, taking walks around the lake. They were fish in that lake. People walked and fished and took fish out of that lake every day. Such a beautiful scene, he could not imagine anything like it in his whole life. And then one night, the old man took his journey to the farm beyond. And the next morning, the nurse told the young man about the loss of his older friend and companion. The younger man asked to be put next to the window, and there he was. And a few days later, he asked to be sat up so he could see what the older man had saw, and told him about the beautiful lake, the trees, and the birds that were there. And so they inched him up so he could just barely see, and looking out the window, what he saw was a blank wall. And angrily he summoned the nurse and said, "Why would anyone lie to me like that over the course of months? Why would he purposely deceive me?" And the nurse said, with honesty in her voice, "I think he was just trying to cheer you up a little and give you something to hope for." So think about it from the point of view of the older man. Why did he feel the necessity to create a whole story, a whole untruth? He created this out of nothing. He didn't have to do that, but the doing of that story made all the difference for the young man. The creation of something out of nothing for that one person made all the difference and made the young man strong enough to give him something to hope for. You could all do that in your life. What's the message in the story? Yes, we should all be probably pretty happy that we have our health, that we have eyes that can see and arms that can pick up things and legs that can walk. What about those people that don't have what we have? Yes, we should be happy. But more than that, it's the story of grit. It's the story of when you have nothing, are you able to make lemon pie out of lemons? And if you can create something out of nothing, then literally anything in your life that you want to have happen can happen. That's how we got here, and that's how we go forward. Thank you.